You're not making it through tonight, Manny?
No, unfortunately not. I was there with the last one. Oh, yeah, you were there as well.
Yes.
I was there with the last one, but I couldn't make this one, unfortunately.
Okay, no stress.
But the catering has been arranged, so everything will be there.
Okay, fantastic.
So productivity if you've ever seen it.
So maybe he's avoiding me. He doesn't want to be seen with me.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if you've seen when Tina stands up. It's quite uncomfortable for me. I walk away with quite a neck pain.
Many years ago, I was in a motorcycle accident, and I sat in a wheelchair for about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So the next time we come, I'll bring the wheelchair. I've still got the wheelchair.
At least then you'll only be a head length longer than me. Yeah, at least then you'll just be slightly taller than me.
So
You're fully make up.
yeah. This was years ago. This is like
Hello, David.
2001. I was still in Boston.
What bike was it?
KZ 1000.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
my stepfather and myself, we used to restore motorcycles,
Yeah.
and cars. So it was an old motorcycle.
Nice.
It was a freak accident. So
yeah, my first bike was a GSX 1100. The one that was just, remember the Katana?
yeah.
The one that came out of that without the thing.
Oh yeah.
Man, that was such a magic bike, eh?
No, those were machines.
Hello.
Hello. That's it.
Weren't the katanas called the Widowmakers?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I had absolutely no handling.
Oh, they weighed a ton. It was like 600 kilos for our weight or something ridiculous.
It was crazy. But that started a trend.
Very important.
Yeah.
Few more minutes.
Ja, interessant. Dus so dat ek nou ons moet weer waars gegaan, maar hy is goed is nogal.
Bobby, which session are you presenting on?
Steps. I'm doing some flow power automate.
Trying to get the agenda clear.
Steps.
Just
Maar die you can use everything.
I have to say that
power automate.
No, I'm doing browser extensions. He's doing
Third
Like it's- Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, perfect.
Steps. Kan ek proses meer van my titel.
Giving you another minute for people to join and then we'll
in camera, but something is messing with my head here. Is this a very new camera you've got there, Jonathan?
No,
amazing cat.
it's the Surface Hub that I've got in, yeah. We're in the conference rooms and Teams doesn't work in the conference rooms anymore.
Because
That's why
just
I've
now
got
it
this
was
one.
actually focusing on the individuals talking in the room.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does
Is that
So
Teams
it's easy.
or is that the camera?
It's
The
part of the
Surface Hub.
camera and it's built into Teams. So you're going to start seeing a lot more smart cameras coming out that are compatible with Teams that can do the speaker identification. We'll see
That's
it
like
in a lot of the Teams room systems that is becoming more of a norm and standard with the cameras coming out now.
My brain just gave an error.
To send you a picture of this Surface Hub. It's beautiful. It's
Sure.
an amazing piece of kit.
Sure. Okay. I'm glad Microsoft seems to be doing well, man. When's the next licensing increase?
That's why take a walk and see if there's anyone maybe stuck on the other side. Okay.
Yeah, because I almost presented in the wrong meeting.
That sounds rough, eh? If you're going to check on the other side, I hope he comes back. Is it cold on that side? Are the people hiding away from the weather?
No, it's cold. It's about 5 degrees cooler than Pretoria this time.
Is the coffee nice and hot?
Yeah. It's you don't want to come to the East End. You see how cold it is. Yeah, it's all the cold hearts.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the weather.
Yeah. Not even the sun wants to come here.
Didn't find anyone else, but pick a page just a little bit. Thanks for that, Matty.
You are most welcome.
Recording is going, so I think let's kick off quickly. So welcome everyone to the June edition of JoziPUG. I believe June already, and June's almost finished. It's insane. This year's just flying past. As normal, session is being recorded. For those online, you can come off mute and just ask. We should be able to hear you clearly. Hopefully you can hear us. Just let us know if you struggle with the sound of it. So tonight we're going to be covering in the news. I'm going to be pulling out all the stuff from Build. Build was last month. Lots of fantastic announcements. Lots of investment going into Copilot Studio and also expanding our Copilot Studio. So I'll be touching on all the new things coming in on that one. Then we're going to be covering extending PowerApps, then Power Automate process steps, and then finishing off with the tech tip, YAML for you and me. Okay. So, just once again, thank you, Okavuma, for sponsoring tonight. The drinks and snacks, really appreciate it, guys. Okay, so in the news, there's a new agent management feature coming into M365 admin port. This is to try and help just get an understanding of what agents are being built inside your organization, put proper access controls in place, so who can build agents, who can publish agents. All of those granular controls are coming in. I mean, we're seeing a similar situation to what happened when PowerApps first came out, where everyone could start creating apps. There was no structure around it, no model, and we saw what that resulted in a couple of years ago. So this is to hopefully minimize on that and just give admins a bit more control over their environment and say who can do what. So this is busy rolling out at the moment. If you don't see it in your environment soon, you will. Next one is...
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
When you say agent, is there Power Agent or?
This is a Copilot Studio agent. Yeah, specifically for Copilot Studio. But the one thing you're going to see is the lines are going to get blurred between Copilot Studio agents and AI Foundry agents. And then there is also the SDK that we're releasing now as well. So now you're going to be able to merge these agents together. One thing I'll touch on is the agent-to-agent communication protocol that we'll also announce. And now you can get Copilot Studio agents to talk to one another, Copilot Studio and AI Foundry agents, as well as agents built with the SDK. So it's just going to expand out from there. Other one that's coming in is fine-tuning for M365 Copilot. So you can now, through the Copilot Studio agent, while it is going to be released soon, where now you can start fine-tuning the models so they become a lot more accurate based on your business function. For areas like the legal, healthcare, very specific financial services, you can now get those models to behave very specifically. The caveat on this, you need a minimum of 5,000 Copilot licenses before you'll get access to this feature. This is specifically the early version. So there's not many of our customers locally that have got 5,000 licenses. It is also only open to North America, Europe, and Asia Pac, but it is something that will come down eventually. Also, big announcement all over the place was around the model context protocol, or MCP. Now, for those who don't know what MCP is, think of it as an API that is specifically designed to handle communications between large language models and applications. So we're trying to standardize on that language so that you can plug agents into, well, any LLM into these applications in a standard format, in a standard way. MCP is an industry standard, well, it's becoming an industry standard. There's still lots of kinks we've got to work out, but this is becoming a lot more popular. The ways you're going to integrate, instead of you connecting with a API, when we're using these large language models, we're going to look at moving over to MCPs in the future. As a bit of standardization, it makes it simpler for the model to understand what it can and what it cannot do with the endpoint. So we're going to see these coming in more. There is also one around Dynamics specifically that I got access to. Yeah, the Dynamics MCP server. So you got for service, for database, for sales. So this is all going to just help that connectivity come in for that. Okay. If you've got a Power Platform environment, spin it up in the US, spin up a Power Platform environment in the US, then you should pick this up inside there now. The Dynamics ones for you to start testing out. Okay. As I already mentioned earlier, there we go. Multi-agent orchestration in Copilot Studio. What this means now is you can have, or you playing a video. Okay, that's fine. I'll share these videos afterwards so you've got access to some of them. But what you can do now is start adding agents within an agent. Say, for example, you've got an HR agent that handles some HR specific tasks. So it can go in, log HR requests, provide you information on HR documents or HR policies. But now the person asks an IT related question. Instead of the person having to go and open up an IT agent, it can redirect it directly to that agent, get the information out and bring it back through. So instead of you having these monolithic, highly complex agents built as one agent, you can scaffold it out to have multiple agents.
Containerized disciplines.
Yeah, 100%.
So now it's not nesting it, it's just triggering the other agent.
Triggering the other agent. So you'll see when you've built out an agent, you go into the settings, there's some new features that we've added in there, or some new settings. One of those settings is saying this agent can be called by other agents. So you would need to turn that on, and then with another agent, you can go in there.
Let's call it the parent agent. Have visibility or context to the conversation that runs in the other.
Oh yes, no, because all it does is it acts as an orchestrator. So I'll get a prompt from a user. Okay, I don't have this functionality within Meeting. I'm connected to this other agent, so I'm going to send this off to them. That agent is going to respond with the result, and then
always has content. It's just posting.
It's just posting it through, passing it on. So it acts like a middleman in that scenario.
Great stuff.
So that's going to be massive. But you can also see whether you're building agents with Copilot Studio, Foundry, or the SDK, you'll be able to bring those agents in as well. So just expanding it out quite a bit. My volume was on 10.
Maybe just a little bit.
Okay, so other one, the Agents Toolkit and SDK has been released. So now you can start debugging and testing these copilots within Teams, within the web, or even the agent playground, and you can deploy them into Azure. So this is just giving developers a lot more options to go in and build these enterprise-grade agents. Making it simpler, bringing in all of those security controls and everything else, so it's going to make it much simpler. Also announced the launch of Copilot APIs. Okay, so this is going to be interesting because now your application can communicate with a Copilot API to retrieve data, for example. So it's doing the data retrieval. The application is just sending the request and waiting for it to come back. So you get much better results in that experience. Okay. So these APIs are in preview at the moment, should be going GA soon. You do require a Microsoft 365 Copilot license.
Is there any environments that is already available that we can?
No, well, the API is not available yet, so it's going to be, it should be coming out within the next couple of weeks in South Africa, if I remember correctly. As long as you've got an M365 Copilot license, you can start leveraging it. And other thing in Copilot Studio, the ability to bring your own models in. So at the moment, you've got access to 4.0, 01 Mini, and I think 03 are the three main models that you can choose. Now, however, there is a flag where you can go in and say, okay, I want to connect to an AI Foundry model. So now with Grok coming in, we're going to have Grok available on the platform, the Llama models, the Mistral models, all of those models you can now choose from to orchestrate your agents. Okay, so you're going to have, it's going to be much of a muchness in the future. What models you're going to be able to use, you can swap them out and change them around, but you can go and swap them out. But you can see like the 5.4 models in there. The results are fantastic and they're very low cost models through them. So you can get some good results at a much better price. Once again, be very specific in the scenario that you're building out. The other really exciting one is the computer use. Okay. What this means is the agent is going to be able to interact with your piece. So it will be able to fill out forms, complete workflows and processes. So very similar to what Power Automate Desktop does. Now these agents are going to have that capability as.
But that's in the future, that's because it says frontier up there, right? So
yeah, it's coming around. Well, there is a private preview being launched at the moment, so there are a couple of people testing this out. But by the end of the year, I can see this being in public preview at least.
Hello, Skynet.
But that's why I say, I mean, since Gen AI has come around and agents have been out, especially the last couple of months with seeing where this is going, the way we build out workflows and automate tasks inside of an organization is going to be done with agents. As long as we can stomach the cost of messages and everything else, that's the only barrier of entry. The way we're going to handle these workflows is going to be completely different because it's like the agent understands context. It understands what's happening on the screen. If layouts change, if a button moves, or if something, there's a pop-up that pops up, the agent knows how to handle that. What I want to test and see is how well it passes the capture challenge. Because remember, capture is there, it's not just about selecting the right upright images or the right words in it, it's your mouse cursor movements that's actually picking up on how it identifies if you're a human or not. It's going to be interesting to see how that gets handled in the future. Also brought in Code Interpreter for Copilot Studio. Okay. So in the past, when you were building agents in our Foundry and previous one, AI Studio, I think it was called, before we renamed it AI Foundry, you used to be able to turn on code interpretation. What this does is it allows the agents to be able to run things like Python scripts. So you can build out visualizations in the chat as you're going through. So you can turn that on now. So you can get it to build out these visualizations and data flows quite easily. Okay. Yeah. There is a new message consumption report. So you can manage your message consumptions across all of your agents. This is currently in preview now. So you can go and see which user, which agent, which policy is consuming the most messages inside your organization. In the past, it was a bit difficult to find all of that. Now we can bring that into the mix. And the next one that also helps with this is the consumption estimator. So now when you are busy building it out, it can give you an understanding on how many messages this is going to consume. Based on the type of agent, based on if it's the type of orchestration that's being used, the type of connector that you're using, it will be able to give you an estimate saying, okay, this agent is going to consume 1,000 messages around based on usage. So you can just help plan that out easier. So you can do that. Copilot Studio Estimator for more details. Okay. What else is there? One more. There is a new adoption page as well. So if you go to Copilot Studio or aka.ms/adopt Copilot Studio, lots of great guides, lots of information. And then the other thing that we've added in is the scenario library, which is quite cool to see these end-to-end business functions on where you can start integrating Copilot Studio, all these agents into those processes. So we put quite a bit of effort into showing the value that it can bring, how to go about it. Like this one is using an agent to respond to RFPs. I think I've spoken to 10 customers in the last 6 months that wanted an agent for RFPs, and now we've got something up and running that can make it very easy for them to bring. All right. And I think that was it from my side, yes, for the news. Any questions or anything else that people have seen in the news that they found was quite exciting?
Just a disappointing build that everything was Copilot. There's very little PowerApps or automated anything that was announced.
Yeah. You can see where the investments go.
Yeah, the focus is a shift in a lot.
Yeah, it has. And we're changing our operating model and everything for the next financial year based on what is happening at the moment. Has anyone built out solutions using PowerApps Planner?
No, but I actually played around with it again this morning. Yeah, it's pretty cool for I would say single tier solutions, something that's very flat as such. But you know, there's still, it makes it easier, especially when you start, you know, working with complex data structures. That's where it starts
Falling apart.
Though you can still go in and manipulate it.
Yes.
The table design tool is pretty cool. I like that.
When it works.
When it works. I would have loved to see the same feature that we have in Power BI, where you can go and say, okay, added all my tables and say, just auto detect the relationship.
Yes.
That would be great, especially when you're trying to explain to a customer, this is what your data structure looks like.
Yes.
That would be amazing. Or if, you know, especially going forward, when business continuity, one developer changes or moves to a different project or whatever, the next guy takes over, he'd like to go click, oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, it works, but it's more focused to the civilian developer.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I actually had a session today where I was teaching people PowerApps, and there was a bunch of interns that we had in. And last week I was like, let me have a look and see how the financials was coming. And I was pretty surprised at how well it builds out things, and how once you've built it out, okay, let's get the data right. Okay, let's go build the model app, let's go build the Canvas app, let's build the workflows, and it actually worked pretty well. I mean, within half an hour, I had two model-driven apps, a Canvas app with all the reports, data sources, and it worked well. It's not very pretty, but I mean, it's fully functional for those basic use cases. Like to see how it evolves and moves forward.
Yeah, and I think that is a focus area that's it's not receiving as much attention as it should, because the civilian developer seriously
Absolutely.
on that side.
Yeah. Okay. Any other things that people picked up in the news? Anything from those online? Yeah, Inception. That is true. Okay, perfect. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is PowerApps. Extending PowerApps. Yes, as a browser extension. That's going to be.
So I'll just share it, right? You're happy with me just share it? All I should see is Google. So everybody knows what a web extension is, and I stumbled upon this by chance, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Imagine you have a scenario where you take a leave application form or a complaint or something, just a quick little Power App, which everybody uses. How do we access it? Usually have a dashboard, or you've got a you've got a link stored on your desktop or whatever. So how's about, and I've done this on purpose, I'll actually pin it to you now, but how's about just clicking on your extensions and clicking there, and there's your app. So this is an app that I've done that, you know, just looks at a complaint form, and there it is. And it's put together simply by 4 files. It's the logo, JSON manifest, the CSS, and the HTML. Can you guys, is it legible? Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, inside. Obviously now when you can.
Yeah, no,
So-
you can see it.
And what I did was I actually built 2 applications in 2 different environments to show you how quickly and easily you can swing it around. So let's say you have one application and you want to move this application, and this is a scenario that's happening quite a lot. People develop in the default environment, and oops, all of a sudden now everybody's using this application, but now we've got to move it to dev,
Yes.
to prod.
Yeah.
So now we need to change it to prod. If it's developed in a web extension, all you need to do is you change the URL. That's it. Easy as that. So that application is
But that's our framing, so.
yeah, but it's the iframe sits in the web extension. There's the web extension. So I'm going to change it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to pin it there.
This you can use for anything. If you want a quick Power BI report.
Yeah.
Everything, anything that you yeah, sure, go for it.
Sorry. I want to see the CSS file, so I'm curious.
Oh, that's so it's so simple. You're gonna
Yeah.
laugh when you see
Yeah,
it.
no, but I'm curious to see if you're dictating the size of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I am dictating it.
Okay.
Okay, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so.
it's so easy. So I'm gonna change it to this, and the nice thing about I'm gonna show you what I really love about this is while I'm in Studio, as I publish it, I can still use the web extension and simplify it and see how it works. So there.
And you now have a folder with HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Yes, yeah.
Is that folder stored in your computer?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can store it anywhere and you can roll it out and plug it into all the PCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a group policy or
Yeah.
something?
So let's go. This is in Playpen. Yeah, I did Playpen number 1. Let's go to apps. So I want to take this one.
Well, let's go check it out. Me, yeah.
So this is just a form. Easy as that. So I'm going to now go into here. While that one is playing, I'm going to go. I'm going to go back here to the HTML. I've just saved it. That's all I've done. Done nothing else.
That needs to load from somewhere. So you say.
On my machine.
Okay.
That's it. So I've currently done it on my machine. That's the new app. Click the same icon, same extension. There you go. So and that's all you're doing is you are framing it in that extension. In that extension.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'm doing. And now, so this is a complaint or an issue tracker. All I'm going to do is test.
This is such an awesome way to access these little mini apps.
Yes.
Just build your own quick little menu system. I often go to, I don't know, PowerApps, Power BI, our HR system.
Yes. Yes.
Little pop-up and go.
And that's the thing. That's so what I'm busy doing for another client is putting their entire application dashboard in. So everything that all the applications that they have, instead of going to because the problem is what happens is somebody gets a link and they store it on their desktop or pins it to their taskbar. Eventually that changes as time goes on. Now they want to know why this doesn't work. But now in the extension, all I do is I change the URL. If I want to point them to a different environment or a different application.
It is really cool.
And then submit. So now that's gone off. Easy peasy, it's done. That's it. So imagine a complaint, and the lovely thing about that is you can copy and paste to it. So let's say you're in a, say, some news. So take that one. And I'm here. Oh, I need to submit this quickly. I can go there. Oh, there it is. It's done. So copy and paste. Basically, that's not multi-line.
What made you think of this?
Constantly getting queries regarding the app's not working. Am I using the right URL? Oh no, hit refresh here. Do this. It's constantly. I was also just thinking of what is an easier way of accessing everything together, because a lot of our clients, we don't just do one or two applications, but then we do a lot of applications. And now they need a centralized point to access everything. And that's where the trigger, and we previously had done a dashboard for them. And we thought, oh, isn't there an easier way of accessing it? And yeah, stumbled upon this. So, and I love it. There's various applications. Even your chat, your bots that you publish to PowerApps, you can push through that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's
Any complications or differences between Chrome and Edge?
none whatsoever. But I will tell you, Safari does not like it at all.
Yeah.
And I haven't tested it with Firefox yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but on the two major ones, Edge and
Chrome.
No issues. I mean, to add it, it's as simple as
Adding
adding a web extension. So you go to extensions and manage extension.
Yeah.
And there you go. You just go load, unpack, and you select
the folder.
And you are there. Where did I say it? There. It's not.
It's so cool.
Easy as that.
So cool.
It makes life just so much easier at the end of the day. And the fact is, anything, anything you can enable in the iframe, obviously you can enable it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and if it runs the full-fledged PowerApp, there's I've tested it with animation,
Yeah.
I've tested it with everything else. So it works like a jet.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, so let's look at if you guys want to look at the code, I mean, it's fairly simplistic, really not very, so that's the code. You can add, that's normal HTML, and that's the CSS. All the CSS does is define an iframe size, and then the manifest, which basically just tells you, it gives it a little bit, it tells the app what to do, and the little JoziPUG logo. Yes. It's that simple. It's that simple. But,
This is really cool.
yeah, there we go. Any questions? All right.
Very nice. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Hey, but I share that. It's amazing, man.
I didn't do a presentation. But
Yeah, get some repo or something.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, well, sure, it is the recording.
yeah, it's recorded, so we are.
Yeah, we'll publish it on YouTube.
Yeah.
You don't have a GitHub handle or anything that you share your code in that with?
No, I don't actually.
Right.
It might be a good idea.
Yeah. That's,
So,
okay, thanks so much. Any questions? Any more questions?
You mentioned GitHub and I think this might have been a PowerApps demo. Sorry, I just walked in very, very late. How do you version control on PowerApps using GitHub? And has that been
That's another completely different.
yeah. Look, it's extremely powerful, especially when you want to start publishing to multiple environments or multiple tenants. It becomes really, really awesome. I think I did one in August last year on version control and GitHub.
You did, yes, you did, yeah.
So there's one on there.
I'll second what I'll do is I'll just post a link to which one it was in the meetup, okay?
Yeah. Is it worth it though? Is it like not detailing anymore?
If you, it's worth it. I mean, you can even check on your solutions. It tells you that there is no Git version control
Yeah.
on it. So it's, if you do multiple tenants, then same application to multiple tenants, it is extremely powerful.
Definitely worthwhile. If the situation
Calls for it.
calls for it, and you know, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of heavy lifting. But when you look at the alternative, it's been,
Yeah, look, it's you got to keep your finger on it. That's the number one rule. Otherwise, it's going to run out.
Okay.
Cool. Can I just sit here?
You more than happy to sit there if you're comfortable.
Are you going to come
Picture
to the
plan?
talk that way? I'll talk extremely loud.
You present your screen.
Cool. Okay, so, you know, yeah, obviously, I can just see if it's.
We don't need to let
Yeah. So that's me. Just a bit of latency.
Interesting.
That's uncanny, Aubrey.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna switch my Wi-Fi just to, I can see there's quite a bit of latency. But anyway, this is me. I'm Aubrey. I'm from Mint Technology, Modern Minds, and Modern Minds team. So I'm a specialist consultant. My bread and butter is a Power Platform, so I do a lot of the PowerApps, Power Automate, etc. And today, what I want to come and show is just one of the big frustrations that we've dealt with in Power Automate, especially quite recently. But it's when you're working with a big, just give the. Just want to make sure this thing's going to work. Otherwise, I'm getting into something else.
That's right. And then you go over to the next slide.
Yeah, I really went over to the next line. So I'm not seeing it on that side.
I think the best thing is going to be disconnect briefly.
Otherwise, I don't know if there's a different Wi-Fi that I can connect to.
Were you on guest?
I'm using my hotspot at the moment.
Okay, you can join guests. So there should be Microsoft guests.
But it's not.
You just share your screen, don't do PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. And then just open up your browser. Should just refresh. There we go. It's Tilly code. And HUD,
HUB,
JHB,
JHB.
W25. There we go.
Nice. Let's try it. Rejoin call. Not you.
No, it's on audio.
There you go. Okay. Try this again. Yes. There, that's a lot. Perfect. Okay, cool. So, and maybe just to paint a bit of a picture, what we initially did is we had a solution we had to build for a finance institution where we had to take a lot of transactions, map them to the correct accounts, and then take that information and then push that into Oracle. So firstly, it's quite a few moving parts because the information was sitting within SharePoint. There's a lot of mapping that needs to happen. Some transaction needs to be added together before it gets sent to Oracle. And also, since it's finance and accounting, we need to make sure that's 100% right. So if something happens, something goes wrong, it needs to stop, and we need to be able to know which transactions went through and which ones didn't, and how can you then go and resubmit the ones that failed. So with that was one of the big problems that we had to try and solve. And I do like building flows using child flows. So you'll see here that I've got a child flow. So this is now obviously just a demo. And you can now imagine that in step 1, we might have to go and retrieve the data from SharePoint. Then in step 2, we might need to map this data to the correct accounts. Then in step 3, adding all the transactions together. Step 4, then call the API. Step 5, verify that it's been created within the Oracle system. And then let's say step 6, complete. I think I created 7 steps for the demo. And that would be the process. So you'll have these 7 steps. Now, how I do like building my flows in the sense where you've got your main orchestrator, call it that, but your parents telling the story, and then your child flows being responsible for single responsibility type of things. So making sure that it only does one thing at a time. It did come to a point where I had to expand on that, but it comes down to your child flows needs to do as little as possible, and you've got this orchestrator telling the big story.
Step by step.
Step by step. So if I did this correct, you should be able to say, let's just say I did this data. The goal of the orchestrator is always so that when people open up the flow, they don't really have to go into all the child flows. They can open up the orchestrator and they can read
what each step does.
Yes, and they can just read the story and they understand exactly what's happening. So me not just saying step 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously not ideal, but I mean, obviously it's just adding.
Well, almost like having a management overview and then going into it granularly.
Correct, yes. So then the problem comes in is, okay, how do we, if something happens, if something breaks in step 5, what do we do? Because now I've already completed 4 steps and now it's at step 5 that broke. So if I run this and I've got a data set here, so I've got 2 batches of transactions, very basic information, but here's one batch ABC and the other batch is DEF, and they've all just been created. So they're currently sitting at step 0, which means if I want to now run this, the old parent, and I'm just going to run it manually. It's then going to go through the steps. I think the parent old I'm mapping directly to DEF. So it's going to go through all these steps and progress the steps along. So as soon as this thing runs. Okay. So if I now refresh this data, you'll see that it's mapping data. It's then summing the transactions. It's creating the final entries because you might want to create a payload before you're sending it through to the API. Then you're calling the API, updating the logs afterwards. And you can see that the steps just increment afterwards.
But you're capturing those steps on the record so that if something breaks.
Correct. Yes. If something breaks, I can always. Yeah. So I can firstly see where it broke, so be able to then debug it. But secondly, also be able to then kick it off at exactly that same step. But the problem comes in, and Microsoft did this to us, is where now it broke at step 5. And all I want to do is I just want to resubmit step 5.
Yeah.
Or I want to do some unit testing. So being able to do test small pieces of my code. And I, for example, just want to test the information that came down to step 5 and resubmit that. And obviously, I'm not allowed to do that anymore. This is the wrong one. Because if I try to resubmit this.
Starts from scratch.
Yes, it's complaining saying that I didn't kick off the flow and I'm not allowed to submit this. So I have to go and resubmit this from scratch. But how do I do this if my entire thing is built off of sequential steps that need to happen beforehand?
So that's why you created the chart, the children.
Yes, but I mean, I can't run the children.
Because you haven't initiated the parent.
Correct. So what I did is I then created a new parent. So maybe just show you the structure of the flows. Is I've got a new parent, old parent, and then I've got 7 steps. These steps for demo purposes, copy and paste. I think the 2 differences are within step 5 and 7, just for demo purposes, but they do exactly the same. They just progress.
They just move it on to the next step.
On to the next step. It fetches the items from the first one. So if you look at step 5, you'll see that it goes and retrieves the item from step 4, and then it will continue and do whatever it needs to do and continue with that. But okay, so now I can't resubmit that flow 5. I don't want to submit it from the start. So how do I just do that that part? Now what I've done is in my new flows, I've created a bit of a condition. So here in my new flow, I've got I keep track of the current step, what my last step needs to be. I'm also just checking whether the previous step succeeded, because again, if it fails, I want to be able to stop it immediately.
So you can start it from anywhere.
And then here, I've got a run step saying that start at step 1. Is it less or equal than the last step? And did the previous step succeed or fail? And all these steps.
Because you have the step identifier in the table.
Yes.
You actually have, that's pretty cool.
Yes. And then what this means is that I can then go click and run. And I can go and decide, I want to start at step 5. I just want to execute step 5.
Everything in that data source that is at step 5 will now be action.
Yes, which that
matches the condition, the DEF.
Yes, that matches this batch ID, for example.
Yeah.
Now I know that everything in step 5 that has step 5 will then execute based off of that batch ID. Now what I've done is I've just added this force fail to just show what could potentially happen. So step 5 is going to fail. So I'm just going to say start at step 1 and continue all the way to step 7 for this specific batch, and let's just don't fail. Don't fail. And while this thing runs, what I've done as well is I did add a reset data, because sometimes you do want to start from scratch, so that the data needs to refresh to the old one. I didn't put it into this flow, but how that basically works is you just have a toggle at the beginning, say, do you want to clear the data? Do you want to restart, reset all the step numbers back to 0, and then restart all of them?
So you can use the same one over and over again.
Over and over again. So for unit testing as well as for debugging purposes, this helps.
Or you might have a compounding error that there's an error, it calculated incorrectly at 2, and then that's just going to carry on.
Yes, exactly.
So
you want to be able to stop it as well. So yeah, I was a bit too late, but here you can see that ABCs, they're all completed. So the process itself is completed, as well as it's all the way to step 7. So what I'm going to do now is just now, because I didn't
show us.
Is it's going to add all this. So I used to have a toggle that just does this for me, but hey, come on.
Changes.
Okay, I think that's all that I need. Okay, data as well. Anyway, so I'll just reset it, reset all the data so that I can resubmit this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trigger a fail. So in my flow, a very basic thing. What I just did in my flow was just check whether you need to. Check whether you need to fail, and then just fail one of the items. Just pretend that you're failing, and then send back a response that you failed. Otherwise, send back a response that you've succeeded. So this part is just for the demo purposes. So all I'm doing is I'm saying, cool, I want you to fail, because I want to that ABC, stop, and go. Okay. And then if we look at the data, you'll see it starts mapping the data.
In progress.
summary transactions. Great file entry is great. I did say one, right? Yeah.
Create file entries.
And there's one that failed. So now there's one that failed. With that specific step 5. Now I didn't update the step, so it still says step 4. But anyway, so it failed at calling the API. It's 1 out of the 5 that failed. And this is now a point where I can go and investigate. Now, if you guys were in the previous plug session, David showed a very nice one on how to then try and investigate with the links to the flow,
Yeah.
which was amazing. It's something that I'm also now implementing as well. So then you can start the debugging process as to why something failed. And now it's this process of, okay, all I want to do is I just want to continue from here, but I can't now just go and resubmit because I still need to do step 5, 6, and 7, but it failed at step 6. But because I've got that flow set up, it means that I can, and now I've gone and I've fixed whatever I needed to fix. The API is back up and running. And all I want to do is I want to say, start at step 5, continue what you needed to do. This time just don't fail.
Okay.
And then if you go look at the data, refresh, complete,
There we go.
complete. And then everything went accordingly. And then if you go look at the flow itself, I'm just going to open up both of these flows just to show what happened initially. Was when I triggered the fail, it would have started at step 1, it would have executed step 1 and just gone through the entire process. But at the end of step 5, or the beginning of step 6, it would have picked up that it failed in step 6.
And then it would have stopped.
And would have stopped at step 6. So step 6 doesn't execute, and step 7 didn't execute either.
And in that scenario, you don't have a way of
I
reinitiating.
don't have a way to read it.
Yeah, so you had to clear the data, reset it together, and then had to run that batch again.
Correct. Yeah.
But with the way you've done it now, you can just continue where you started.
Correct. So step 1 is completely skipped all the way up to step 5, and it just picks up from step 5 and then continues all the way down to step 7. So being able to manage my flows in the steps allowed me for separation, being able to then just separate my code, but also be able to debug and start wherever I want in this sequential process a lot easier.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Any questions? Any questions online?
Anyone from the online team? David.
No, that's very cool. Very nicely done.
Awesome. That's it from me.
Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate that. Awesome. David, were you doing the tech tip?
No,
Yeah,
Michael was going to do it, but I just spoke to him now. Apparently, he's not going to be able to make it.
Okay.
Apparently, he did send us a message, but I didn't see that. So, is there anybody else that wants to share a quick tech tip? Yeah.
That's yeah. Don't stare directly into the sun. It's bad for your eyes.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like we've got a tech tip for today.
Okay. Anyone got any other comments, questions, insights? Want to share?
I'm curious about the agents. You said that they're going to be able to call APIs for you, well, interact with the data for you.
Yeah.
Right. Does that mean that any configuration, you don't really need to do any configuration for the agent to be able to access the data? They're just going to be able to do it based on your prototype.
No, you will still need to add that functionality into an agent.
Okay.
How much have you played around with Copilot Studio agents? Okay. Let me bring something up quickly.
Manny, seeing that Jonathan is coming to the rescue here, this is a good time to play that song again. It's your theme song.
So at the moment now, what we used to have in Copilot Studio were actions. So actions are what gave the agent the ability to execute certain tasks. So you would have a send an email action, where now you populate the to, the subject, and the body, and it will send it out. We've renamed this now to tools. So you'll see inside the portal, you've got tools, and this is what is going to give your agent some functionality. Okay. Now, the tools descriptions become important because it tells the agent, the LLM, what it can and cannot do. Now, most of these tools are your traditional connectors that we utilize in Power Platform. What we're going to see moving towards this is going towards the model context protocol. So now you're going to, instead of using those tools, when you come in and you go and add a new tool, you'll see one of the options is the model context protocol. So this just makes it easier for you to integrate with some of these things that understand, like the data agents inside of Fabric. You can now connect to Copilot Studio directly to that data agent. So now you can start querying information that's sitting in your Fabric instance, which is really powerful. It can give you those insights so quickly. When you bring in Code Interpreter with this, you can now start building visualizations on the fly based on your actual real world data. Okay, that's pretty. Along with this, you'll see now, if we go into this way, there we go, agents. So this is where now we can start going in and adding additional agents. So we can go create an agent from scratch or go and connect to an agent on Copilot Studio, our Foundry, and the SDK as well.
Well, those two blocked out.
These don't, they're still, these ones aren't available.
It's a bit, I just wanted to know, this is coming licensing or is it because?
No, it's just not to access it. Yeah, those should be landing soon. So, yeah, quickly, the other one that we've brought in that people haven't seen yet, possibly, is, okay, that's my master prompt, but that's this section over here. Triggers. So this is what makes agents autonomous. So just like you have a trigger in Power Automate that kicks off a workflow, you can now have triggers that can kick off this agent. So now you don't need to send a message to the agent to get it to start doing something. Like in this case, this is an onboarding app, onboarding agent. So as soon as a person gets added to an onboarding team, it kicks off an onboarding process. It goes and logs tasks in Planner against their name. It sends them a welcome message. It gives them the ability to go and ask questions about all their policies and procedures. We're busy expanding this out to other items now as well from this.
Can you trigger on a schedule as well?
Yeah, you can trigger on a schedule. Like one of the things that we bring in, it's not in this one, this is my other environment. But what it actually goes and does is every morning it sends a list of your tasks in Planner. There were two other applications we connected where they were storing their project tasks. I was trying to remember where the other one was. There was Jira, and then there was one other one. I can't remember the name of it. But that way, every morning it sends the team members a list of any tasks they have against their name, what the status, all that inside there. So recurrence does work. There are tons of triggers. I mean, just click here. Trigger. So they're all recurrence is the first one. As you can see, there's quite a few options that we've already brought in where it triggers it off.
Maybe two questions. So with your tools, you're adding new rows, so you're giving it the action that it needs to be able to do.
Yes.
Are you able to add an action that is like a custom connector action?
I don't know just yet. I haven't tried it. I would assume so because it's utilizing the same ones as Power Platform is using from the tool section.
Yeah.
You can bring in your own MCPs. So just like you could bring in custom connectors, you can also bring in your own MCPs. So that does work. I'll double check on seeing if we can support from the tool. I would assume so. I don't see why not. It's the same underlying technology. The big thing is that what we do see is in your instructions. I mean, instructions can be quite detailed depending on what you're trying to do. You don't always need to reference your tools as part of this. If you give enough description in the tool itself, so when you add in the tool in, there's a description field. If it doesn't see anything in the instructions file to execute on that request, it's going to start looking at the tools that are connected in those descriptions. And it will be able to on the fly decide, okay, if this is something that it can utilize or not. So depending on what you're doing, you don't necessarily need to configure it in your instructions. I mean, you've got 8,000 characters in your instructions, so you can get very complex in that. But you want to try and keep it simple. Okay. So sometimes you don't even need to put it in. As long as you put enough descriptions in the tools description section, you should be fine. Okay. Listen.
That prompt is very well put together. Were you prompted to put it that way? Or was it just, did you just think, okay, maybe I should reference where the sources are and tell you what the prompt is?
So there is some good prompt engineering best practices which we followed inside here. This was the longest part of building out this agent. I probably spent an hour bringing in all the connectors, connecting everything up. I probably spent a good 3-4 hours just refining this prompt to get it to where it is, and that's where you spend most of your time. The thing is with the prompts and getting it to do things, you want to follow, you want to give it its goal. So what are you wanting to do? You want to give it its context. So what's the scenario? You want to give it the source of where it's getting its data from and the expectations. What is the output of the data? Once you start bringing in those elements, you'll see a drastic improvement and more consistency with the prompts. Because that's what you're doing now with the instruction file, is creating a consistency of the output.
And the more context you give to each portion of that, the better.
Yeah, it's like, prime example, what I've done here. Scroll up a bit. You can see, I've actually pasted in the body of the message of the email that I wanted to send. Because this way, I could guarantee that the format was going to be exactly the same every single time. If I just left it with some requirements on what it should include, I got a lot of variations. So sometimes it would give the links perfectly, other times it would drop one of the links off, it would use slightly different wording. So the only way I figured out is to do this is to drop it in the body of the message itself. I could also have it referencing a file, so part of the knowledge, I could have uploaded a file with that body in it that I could use for reference as well.
Yeah. Question just was that part. I see it's got a length of 8,000 characters.
Yes.
When putting in like, I don't know, just describing the agent and everything and just outlining what it needs to do you find that maybe the agent, depending on how big it gets, like bloated, does it get lazy, does it read through it?
No, you start getting some inconsistencies with some of the experiences and some of the steps.
Okay.
Like the one thing, and this was something purely I was testing out, and this is not best practice. The one I've done here is I'm getting it to send an email on behalf of someone. So my account is hard coded in there at the moment. This is just for demo purposes. You don't want to do that in production environments because you can get people sending messages on your behalf. Like you'll see over here, where is it? There we go. So that's step number 10. Do not send in any emails except the onboarding welcome email. But now I'm saying, okay, you've got an email connected, but only use this to send the welcome message. And most of the time, if I type in there, say, sending a message, it will say, sorry, I can't send an email message. But sometimes you can manipulate it into getting it to send a message. So it's a bit inconsistent there. It will probably get better over time. However,
and you find if you put it further at the top, is it a bit better?
No, lower at the bottom.
Lower at the bottom.
Yeah, lower at the bottom. These models are susceptible to something called recency bias. So the latest things that they receive, they're going to take precedence over earlier things.
So many overrides.
Yeah. So that's why if you issue an instruction and then you've got a lot of steps, reissue that instruction at the end. Maybe change the wording slightly because that way it reinforces it.
Yeah, it's also to ensure that you don't have to reduce conflict within it. Because you might have one statement and by accident that says, do this, and the other one at the bottom says do something else.
Yeah.
So the most recent one will take precedent.
100%. Yeah. And this is with regards to any AI models that you work with. One thing we have done, usually in your main instructions, you would do your response formatting. So how you want things laid out, the type of languages that you use. In the settings tab now, we've got a response formatting section. So now all your formatting and responses, so if you want to bold certain items, if you want to bring in bullet points, so all of those things that you would typically put in the instructions file, you can now put into here.
Oh, that's cool.
This does overwrite anything that you have. If there's conflicts between the main instruction file and this one, this will take precedence.
Because that triggers loss.
Yes, exactly. And you'll see over here as well. So 4040 mini, and then in some environments, you'll see AI Foundry models that you can bring in. Which you scrolling. There we go. And we've also put in content moderation. So now, instead of it just saying or not bringing a response back, if you hit any content moderation, so if you bring in any violent content or anything else like that, you can now put a specific message or flag that the user gets. You can also,
Please don't talk to me like that.
you can also collect users' reactions. So if they thumbs up a message saying this was a good response, instead of it going out to Microsoft, it now goes to you. So you can get a lot more feedback on that directly. And then the slowness, knowledge. So we've got the used information from the web. This is using Bing Web Search. So in the past, you couldn't add a search engine into it for general knowledge. Every customer I know that's worked with has asked for that. Now you can simply turn the toggle on and it's going to do an internet search. Use it with care. We all know what internet searches can be like for their results. You can't guarantee information coming back. Internal use cases will be okay. I would not use this in external facing or customer facing use cases. Yeah.
I have one last question.
Shoot.
It's a bit ambiguous, but I think I know the answer, but I want to know the words to the answer. How do you discern between when to use an agent, when to use a workflow, and when to use logic apps?
I'd also just touch on that, when to use a Copilot agent and when to use an Azure AI agent.
If you are for low code development, Copilot Studio. If you are a developer and you like having full control over everything, AI Foundry agent. Now, when to use the difference between Copilot Studio agent, Power Automate, or Logic Apps, that is more of a difficult question to answer. First one being licensing. Okay, so depending on what licenses you've got access to. Logic Apps, you pay for what you use. Power Automate, you've got your standard, you've got your free. Copilot Studio agents, you've got messages. So all of these things that these agents are going to do is consume messages out of message bundles. So if messages are included, depending on your license, so if you've got an M365 Copilot license, that covers you for certain scenarios. If you don't have any licenses, then you're going to be consuming messages. So a lot of these features are still in preview. So it's still not 100% clear on when you could utilize that, but in the near future, it's going to become a lot more blurry. But I do see a lot more workflows and orchestration being handled by Copilot Studio agent. Let's take a claims process, for example. Someone submitting a claim for a death in the family. They've got to fill out certain forms, send them through. Usually, you wouldn't have a workflow picking that up because there's so much variation in the stuff that people can send through. You'd have people checking the documents, making sure everything was complete, going backwards and forwards with the person to make sure that they get everything up to date, the forms done. Now you can get an agent to do that because an agent understands the context, it understands the tools. it can go and open up the application form and see, hey, wait, you haven't signed page 5. Draft an email, send an email back to the person and start that work.
Those
Stretch.
tedious tasks that just slows down your processes so badly, it keeps costing you money. Where you continuously, now I have to employ somebody now just to go make sure everybody has signed this form.
Yes, exactly.
No.
But now I think you get an agent handle because it understands that concept, because it's dynamic, and because it can connect to other agents now, it is really going to transform the way workflows working. So, any other questions? Perfect. Anyone online? I see there has been some chats going. Pizza has arrived. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Manny.
Pleasure.
Okay, there, Matt's just run to go and find it now quickly for us. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. For everyone else, we are recording and uploading these to our YouTube channel. So if you do miss out on any, you can go back and look at them. If you do need anything else, please shout. If you do want to speak at one of these events, please reach out to us, let us know. We're always looking for speakers. It's always great to hear from you, see the things that you're doing, share your knowledge. It's also a good place to practice your presentation skill because it's a safe environment. We're all colleagues here, so you don't have to worry about messing up on a presentation or anything else. We can just help you refine and hone those skills. So please let us know, reach out. We're always looking for people. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just submit sessions on Sessionize, and then it's easy
Yes.
to slot them in.
Perfect. The session details are on the Meetup site, David.
Yes, they should be, but I think we should just publish them on the YouTube channel as well.
Perfect. Okay, and then you said you'll post them shortly. Awesome. Thanks, man. All right, everyone. Thanks. Enjoy the drinks. Enjoy the pizza. See you again next month.
Thank you very much.
Everybody have a good evening. Bye.
In